unless you're watching TV, unless you're listening to the radio, you're not going to have any idea what's coming up here. So this is where we get the casualties, where folks are not aware of what's coming and not able to reach a higher ground. So unfortunately, the tragic thing is we're seeing that wave of mud and debris and buildings and fire just encompass some of those homes there, and we hope they're empty, but certainly some of them probably are not, Rosemary, there. So there you see the initial wave coming in. Also want to keep monitoring, folks in the back, the shoreline, because I would, again, this has not happened once. So we are talking about a tsunami that comes in, the first initial wave, and then we get another wave and perhaps even a third wave after that, with an 8.9 great earthquake. That shallow, that close to the shore, there are going to be more tsunamis coming in. So we'll have to watch that very closely there. That doesn't look good there. You see the breakers there again, an ongoing threat here. So this is going to be historic indeed.
Indeed, and where people can, and of course it is very difficult, you need to get to higher ground. And any of those countries we've mentioned, any of the coastal areas, you need to move, and you need to move quickly and get to higher ground. I've got Matt Alt on the line now. He's talking to us from Tokyo. He was there, of course, when this earthquake hit, now an 8.9 magnitude quake. Matt, tell us about the situation for you when this magnitude 8.9 hit.
Well, it was absolutely unlike anything I've ever experienced before. I've been living here for 8 years now, and this was quite simply the biggest, longest-lasting earthquake I've ever experienced here.
And that's it. Kamala, our reporter there, was saying that she thought it was 4 to 5 minutes. Was that your sense as well?
Oh, yes. The ground was rolling for an extended period of time. I wasn't exactly sure what to do or where to go. I'd never been prepared for anything like this. My wife and I stood outside and basically held on to the outside of our house. You couldn't even stand up. I mean, literally at the peak of these waves that were washing over the ground, you literally could not stay on your feet. You had to kind of crouch down in a ball or put your back against something so you didn't fall. And that's exactly what we did for the length of the duration of it, which I would say was about probably a minute to 2 minutes. It felt like a lot longer than that, let me tell you.
Indeed. And are you saying that you live there, or that you're actually traveling there?
I actually live here. I've lived here for the last 8 years, and I live on the west side of the city in a little section of Tokyo called Kichijoji. And yes, there are earthquakes from time to time, but we have never, ever felt anything on the magnitude, the literal magnitude of what we experience today.
And that's exactly the story we're here now. Matt, as we are talking, we are looking at this extraordinary wave, another tsunami wave, moving toward the Japanese coast. Where are you located? Are you away from any threat of tsunami coming ashore?
Yes, we're very fortunate to be located quite far inland. Of course, there's some rivers and streams around here, but those aren't being affected by the tsunami. We're kind of, I would say, a good 10 to 15 miles away from the coastline, so we don't have to really worry about that where we are. But with the footage that we're seeing, the video that we're seeing on the television screens is just, it's absolutely, it's heart-wrenching, actually, because you know that probably a lot of those people did not have a chance to evacuate before the wave hit, even though they were telling people, you need to get away from the shorelines, you need to get away from the water. Just watching this wave hit, and cars and buildings and houses being swept away in it, I think we're going to see a significant number of casualties, especially up in the northern part of the country where the quake was epicentered.
And as you mentioned, you've been there for a number of years. I do have to apologize, because someone was actually talking in my ear when you mentioned the number of years that you've been there. How long did you say you've been there?
I've been here for 8 years. My wife is Japanese, and she's lived here most of her life. And I can tell you, this was something neither of us we were completely unprepared for this. It was a beautiful spring day. It was sunny outside. I had just come home from a little errand to the grocery store, and all of a sudden, bam! It just hit, and you could tell this was different instantly from other little tremors that we've had before. I mean, it just picked up in intensity. It ramped up. The gentle shaking, and things started coming off the shelves, things started falling off our desks, and you could hear this strange, eerie creaking sound of all of the buildings all around us as they were kind of shaken by this, by the tremor of the ground. And it was something I hope I never have to hear again, but unfortunately we keep getting aftershocks We've had 3 or 4 so far, and there's probably going to be other ones as well.
And the reality is, I mean, living in Japan, this is something that you're very used to, but as you say, and of course as people who've lived there all their lives, they know when this is different, and this felt very different.
It absolutely did. I think this is going to be a tremor to remember, so to speak, and I think people are going to be talking about this for a long time to come, because really, Tokyo hasn't seen anything like this in decades. More than half a century.
Indeed, and Matt, you mentioned that your wife is Japanese, so for her, presumably, when this quake hit, she was no doubt a little calmer, perhaps, than you were, because she would be used to this situation. What did she say to you?
Absolutely. Well, you know, what the first thing she said was to open up all of the doors and the windows, just in case, you know, Japanese people have been trained for this sort of contingency ever since they were children, because it's such an earthquake-prone country. The first thing she said was leave the windows and doors open, because just in case the building shifts, you don't want to get trapped when the doors get caught in their door jambs. And then we also brought our shoes in the house with us, which is something that in Japan you never do. You never bring your shoes in with you. But we brought them inside because just in case that there was broken glass or something like that, to be able to get out. And then she was the one who said, get down on the ground, get down in a corner, put your back against something, and wait for the tremors to subside before trying to stand up and walk around so you don't hit your head. So yeah, she was the cool-headed voice of reason during this. I was pretty much running around like a chicken with my head cut off.
The calming influence of a wife, it's very much needed, certainly in a situation like this. So, I mean, as we speak, we are continuing to look at these aerial shots, and we saw that gigantic wave heading again toward the coast. We've probably witnessed in live TV, and all of our global audience and people in the US have witnessed this. We've watched it unfold, which I can't remember a situation where this ever occurred, where you actually see this unfold. And of course Japan and the journalists there are used to covering these sorts of things. They have their cameras trained on all of these critical shots, like the tsunami waves coming to shore. I don't know if you can talk to some of the pictures we saw a little earlier, but we saw all of this mud and debris with boats and cars moving across a farm area. Now, I don't know if you were able to talk to that at all, but what could you say and tell us about that?
Well, the epicenter of the earthquake, insofar as I understand it, was in a prefecture called Iwate, which is several hundred kilometers north of Tokyo. And I think the footage that we are seeing largely of these waves of debris, it's almost like a monster movie. Just seeing this stuff wiping out entire sections of the coastline is all generally from that area. Also, Hokkaido, the northernmost island of Japan, is taking a major hit. And we've been seeing a lot of footage of water washing over farmland and other places that are near to the coastline. And there's even been some really heart-wrenching footage of cars racing away from the water. Unfortunately, we don't know if those people made it away or not, but just watching it, it really is almost terrifying. It is really terrifying.
And this
we're getting scattered reports throughout.
Please go on. I mean, I just wanted to make the point. That's what's disturbing about covering this too, because as we look at these pictures, we must not forget that there are people there on the ground when these waves of mud and debris sweep over the land. And this is a big problem. We don't know the casualties at this point, but of course that we will learn.